Thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of the Put a Fork in It podcast. The podcast delivering fresh perspectives at the intersection of food, health, business, and creativity. I'm your host, Kaylina Cahill, photographer, storyteller, and creative entrepreneur. Today's guest, Filomena Fanelli, is really a superstar businesswoman in the Hudson Valley. 3 years ago, she started her PR firm after being a freelancer in the field for a number of years. She decided to take it to the next level and formed her company. Her and I met a few years ago when she was just starting her business, Impact PR and Communications. Since then, she has been named one of the top 40 under 40 from the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce, won the Hermes Creative Award for her work, and was named Junior League of Poughkeepsie's Provisional of the Year. Her business has grown very rapidly from, as she'll soon tell you, her kitchen right into her current office with 5 employees and a number of interns. I'm very excited to share this interview with you. Thanks, Filomena, for joining me on the podcast today. I'm excited to talk to you about how you grew your business and all about public relations and everything like that. So just so everybody in the audience knows, Filomena owns her own company called Impact PR and Communications.
That's correct. And thank you for having me here to talk with you today. I appreciate it.
So we've met a few years ago through a women's networking event in the Hudson Valley. And back then when we met, you were just starting your business.
That's correct. It was about 3 years ago, maybe a little more than 3 years ago.
And I think at the time you were also working for another PR company. Is that true?
That's correct. Yeah, I was freelancing for another public relations firm, and that firm's based in New York City and DC. So I was doing some work for another woman's public relations firm and had this crazy idea to start my own public relations firm.
And where did you get that idea from?
Well, it built up over time. So what wound up happening is I was doing this freelancing work, and I kept getting requests from businesses here in my local community, nonprofit and for-profits, that kept asking me, hey, what's this kind of thing that you do, this PR thing? And do you think it would help me with my business? Or do you think you would help manage the public relations for my not-for-profit? We need a little bit of help. So I kept kind of adding a little bit of something here and a little bit of something here and a project there. And before you knew it, there were people with steady needs that kept coming to me for help. And I looked at all of that and I said, gee whiz, I think I have this little bit of a business building up here. And I told the story to my husband. I'm like, I keep getting phone calls. There's like 6 people who need my help every single month. It feels kind of like a business. Maybe I should just start my own business. And he was crazy too. And he said, yeah, why don't you do that? And that's all she wrote. I started looking into the idea. I met up with an attorney who another woman I met through a business networking event, she recommended to me. And I wound up seeing the attorney, filing to become an official corporation, coming up with a name, hiring somebody to do my logo and branding and help me launch a website. And the next thing you know, there was no looking back. That was the beginning of a very exciting next 3 years.
So about how long was that going on that you were freelancing and then you're like, okay, maybe I should do this business thing. And then you're like, okay, now my stake is in the ground.
So by the time I started having those feelings of, hey, maybe I should branch out onto my own, I think it had been about 5 or 6 years of freelancing for that other PR firm, which the name of that company is the Borland Group. And I still do some freelancing work for them as well. And I consider the owner of that company to be a huge mentor in my world. And we're very close friends to this day. And she was so gracious. And this is where I love when women help other women. When I explained to her I was thinking about starting my own business, she was not even slightly supportive. She was enormously supportive. She didn't know what to do for me next. She helped explain things that would help me along on my journey. told me I was welcome to freelance for her and that she could be my first client. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that because it gave me a nice start and I had income coming in right out of the gate because of that relationship. So it was a great way to be able to start my own business.
That's awesome. I mean, that sounds like kind of like the ideal situation for like a service business.
It really was. I had a client built in, or a few clients at that point because I had my own local business. And I had a friend who had been there and done that was willing to give me the emotional support that business owners sorely need when we start up entities. I don't care if you're in the food business, you're a photographer, you're a branding guru, or a PR firm. Everybody needs a buddy who's been down that road before to talk to. Especially, it's not all roses always, especially in the beginning when you're trying to figure things out and you're making mistakes. It's part of the process.
So what kinds of mistakes did you make?
How long is this podcast, Kaylina?
Just tell me about a couple of them.
Well, so some of the early mistakes, if you will, or I would call them learning experiences, is figuring out how to explain what you do to others, figuring out how to put a price around that and value those services. Growing a business is also wrought with learning experiences, if you will, because you're figuring out how to scale your model and keep the service level up and possibly manage others and their projects and their work. And I'm still learning about that every single day. Every day I get a little bit better at all of that.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit more about the valuing of your services and putting price on it and figuring all that out. I mean, how have you been dealing with that?
One of my favorite questions, possibly, because I do think knowing one's value in the market and knowing what your services are worth are key to running a sustainable and profitable business. And that doesn't happen overnight. When a business opens its doors, you need to take in whatever income you can rapidly. You need to gain recognition in the market for having reputable services, for being a desirable business to do business with. So when you first start off, I think just getting clients at all, at any price point, is important. But as you build your business, not giving those services away for free all of the time. I have made exceptions and worked pro bono basis with not-for-profits. But I think kind of testing out your value within the market, raising that bar according to where your key competitors are, and gathering some intelligence on that front helps you set smart prices. And sort of keeping track of how much time it really takes to do the job. When I first started off, I wasn't keeping track of how many hours I was putting in, and I was willing to work 60, 80 hours a week and not really think about how much my time was worth. But all of us should value what our time is worth.
I mean, time is the only resource you can't get back.
Yeah, you can't make more time. You can't manufacture time. And we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's what you do with them and how you value them. And I do think having relationships with other people who are in your same field can be extraordinarily valuable. One of the organizations I belong to is Counselors Academy. It's a sect within the Public Relations Society of America, and it's made up of fellow PR agency owners. So right there, I have a resource in my fellow agency owners from all across the country. We don't see each other as competitors, and we're able to talk about what kinds of services we provide to our clients, what kinds of hours we have to put in to make that happen, and where we need to set prices to run sustainable businesses. We want to all be here a few years from now. That's the end game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you don't price yourself correctly, you're going to be out of business.
Exactly.
You're just going to run yourself into the ground. Right?
And that's not really the best thing for your clients either. If you're burnt out, if you're scrambling, if you're not able to give them the amount of attention and care that they deserve, or hire the correct people to help you fulfill their requests, then nobody's winning there.
Can you kind of tell me about the emotional journey that went along with the pricing portion? You know, like, how did it feel like when you were, you know, putting out numbers or saying, you know, I think it's worth this, and then, you know, talking with prospective clients and like what their reactions were and things like that?
Sure. So I think there's a certain aspect of facing down fear. Everyone's afraid of rejection. I think you've been there too. You're in business as well. Yeah. We don't know until we put that number out there what the reaction's going to be, and we're always testing it. But I think as you build up a book of business and become more confident and you practice facing down that fear and knowing what you're worth, you're more able to walk away when a deal doesn't feel equitable on both sides. And so even if somebody wants to do business with our firm, if I don't feel like we're going to be able to give them the attention they deserve, put the correct team members on the case to help them, and also keep our doors open, I'm not afraid to say that and to walk now. And that's taken me some time, but I would rather have business with the right people than have lots of business with the wrong people.
So can you tell me kind of what got you to that place of confidence and how you were able to kind of convince yourself that it's okay if we say no to this deal, or like it's not the end of the world? Like what kind of led to that?
So one of the things that's been instrumental for me, and I recommend a lot of business owners as they build up, consider aligning with either mentors or coaches. I work with someone who's almost like a CFO, but external, who helps put things into perspective and helps look at and track our hours that we work and who we work them with and how. And it really provides intelligence and logical reasoning behind the business that we're doing. When we all track our time and we know what it takes to get the job done, then it puts all of that into perspective and it's not so emotional. It's really logical. Mm-hmm. And it's a two-sided conversation of here's what it's going to take to get you here, and here's what we did in the last 6 months with you, and we want to continue to provide you with that excellent level of service that you're happy with, and here's what it takes to continue to do that. Mm-hmm. And within reason too. I mean, relationships are at play, and we like to maintain our long-term client relationships. So there's always a bit of give and take in any kind of negotiation, but just knowing that I value the people that I work with and I value my own time so enormously, I've processed those feelings and I've realized that you can't be all things to all people. And it's just been practice. Like any muscle that you exercise, the more you do it, the stronger you get at it.
So it sounds like you haven't always been this logical about it.
No, at first. When I first opened my doors, it was all emotions. It was like the glee of having clients and more people. Oh, they want to do business with us. Like, this is so exciting. And then after a while, I was like spread really thin and realizing that not everybody is the ideal fit. And when people bring us in as prospective public relations partners to them, they have needs. They need press releases written. They want to be in the media. They want to win awards and do speaking engagements, and they want to tap our expertise to do that. When they interview me, at the same time, I'm interviewing them now, and I try to see it from that perspective. I want to know if they're going to be an ideal client partner to us, if we're going to have synergy. It's sort of like getting into a relationship with someone. You want to make sure there's a right fit on both sides. If one party is extraordinarily happy and the other feels used and abused, that's not going to be a good partnership. Or if they feel like they're not getting enough attention, then I'm not doing my job well.
So did you have, say, one specific experience that kind of made you realize all this? Or was it a series of, negotiations or client relations that just were like a little bit off or not quite perfect?
That's a wise question. I do feel like it's a series of those interactions, and one builds upon the other, and there's different layers of learning. So I've had clients as my business grew that I realized were no longer the right model for us, or that we couldn't give them what they needed. We've worked with people where we didn't feel like there was a clear line of communication, and that's important for us to be able to achieve success with the clients. So I've sort of learned some of the things that we look for in a partner, much like when you're young and dating and you're meeting people, you don't know who the ideal person is to spend all of your time with. And then through a couple of bad ones, you sort of hone in more closely on who your right fit is for your personality. And every business has its own unique brand and personality. So what's right for me may not be what's right for someone else, or what feels wrong to me may be completely acceptable to another firm or agency. It is really a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. So I think we can transition now a little bit. I wanted to kind of talk about public relations as a topic.
Excellent.
To help anybody that's listening to this that either hasn't started their business yet or maybe who is in a small business but doesn't quite understand what PR is and how it's different, say, from marketing and advertising, and kind of gets all that stuff like they're like, oh, isn't that all the same thing, you know? Right? So can you give me like the broad strokes? What is public relations?
Okay, so public relations is any kind of strategic communications effort that builds a relationship between a business and their intended audience member or client base. So those series of communications are going to help further the understanding of what it is a company does and how and whom with, and what is PR and how it differs from advertising and marketing is a question I get all of the time. And much like the relationship analogy I just gave you, I use a different relationship analogy. I didn't invent it, so I can't claim some sort of genius here. But I do think it perfectly explains the difference between PR and advertising and marketing. And it goes a little something like this. If a man and a woman are sitting across from each other, and the man says to the woman, I'm so smart and so clever and so good looking, you should totally go on a date with me. What he's doing is advertising. He's saying to the person on the other side of the table what makes him special. Here I am, look at me. Totally effective. Now, if he turns to the young lady and he says to her, you know, Kaylina, you're a brilliant conversationalist, and I really enjoy spending time with you. You're so smart and so great to hang out with. We should definitely spend more time together. He's in turn saying the right thing to the right person in the right way at the right time. He's anticipating her needs and what she wants to hear, and that is a form of marketing. Now, if the young lady and the man are sitting together and she gets up from the table to go to the restroom and she runs into her friend Susie, and Susie pulls her aside and says, oh my gosh, you're talking to that guy Tom. I know Tom. Tom is a really stand-up guy. He's really well respected in the community, very successful, and has a great sense of humor. Wow, I can't believe you know him. You should totally go out with him. That's a really cool guy. That is public relations. Public relations is that third-party endorsement, that whisper in the ear, that credentialing that gives someone comfort in feeling like they understand an individual or a brand and therefore can trust them and possibly do business with them. And that's what we aim to do when we work with clients. We help build up reputation, explain and communicate what a brand stands for and its values, what its expertise is, gives the other party or whoever their intended audience is comfort and understanding of who they are and that they're a comfortable choice to do business with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was a really great description.
Pretty lengthy, right?
Yeah. No, but I like that analogy. That was pretty good. So how do you do that?
So there are a number of different ways. What we like to do when we work with clients at a public relations firm, and I think any reputable PR firm would do the same, you should ideally sit and have a conversation about what the business goals are. And it could even be for a not-for-profit. Not-for-profits have goals too. They have audiences. So what I like to do is talk to them a bit about what are their goals, what are the messages they're trying to get out, what is the understanding of them currently in the market, where are the gaps, and then what we do is we work from there, from that point of having an end goal, and try to find the appropriate tactics to get them there. And that's going to vary by what kind of company or agency it is that we're working with and what the needs are, but it could include press releases to get key news out, photos and captions that go to the media, applying for awards, sharpening written content on a website, securing speaking engagements that allow the company head to be a thought leader in his or her industry, and a number of other, research, social media pushes. There's a number of different quivers that we can pull and draw from to get the arrow to the target.
Mm-hmm. So how might the work that you would do on social media differ from, say, a social media firm or like a marketing firm that's also using social media as a tool?
So great question. What we do is we provide kind of direction and oversight of messaging. So in other words, if there are placements that have happened in traditional media, we'll offer up suggestions on where they'd want to amplify those messages using social media, where they might want to build out more of a presence. We'll sometimes provide suggested wording and posts or ideas on creative hashtags to use for campaigns. But what we don't do is work on social media in a silo. It's not something I do alone as a standalone. I see it as part of an overall reputation building. My ideal kind of client that I work with, or that we do here at Impact PR and Communications, is someone who has a bigger, more global understanding of their brand and the messages they want to communicate. And they're willing to work on that in a number of fronts. So ideally, they'd have a steady stream of news or work with us to help develop news, speak to trends that are happening in the market. They do that in traditional media. They do that in social media. Maybe they blog and we offer up some suggestions there. We're kind of watching their overall presence and making sure that their paid avenues and their earned and their social and their owned are all cohesive and headed in that same direction so that they can be really effective.
Mm-hmm. So what does that mean in terms of like size for the type of client that you work with?
So every PR firm is different. Some firms will work with very tiny startup firms. Some tend to work with bigger multinational corporations. Most of our clients are nonprofits or businesses in the area, often with more than one location, or a team of 10, 20, 30 plus people. Some are companies with hundreds of people employed by them. But it depends, and I think there's something that can be learned from even the largest brands, all the way down to startups that are doing things right. And if we can observe some of the best practices and what worked and why, it can be applied to any business anywhere. And I really do believe that, because everybody does have a story to tell.
I totally agree with that. And I try and apply different concepts from large businesses within my own as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of the things that I like to do, say, for my own clients or for my own business, I try and practice what I preach, first of all. But, I can't be a marketing firm or photographer if I don't also use professional imagery for myself or practice marketing for myself and branding. But I try and grab ideas from the bigger companies and see how I might scale them to my business, so that I can still get the benefits of it, but not necessarily be at the scale of, say, like a Coca-Cola or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
So what are some things that local small businesses can do for PR that some of these kinds of ideas that they can get from bigger businesses that scale well?
So there are a number of things you can borrow, and it does depend on what type of business you are. Obviously, what's going to work for, say, a restaurateur might be different than what's going to work for a not-for-profit client or a startup computer business. But I think just being mindful that we do all have a story to tell, watching for when we have a news moment or an opportunity. So I treat myself, I'm a small business where 6 people who work within the business and 3 interns right now. And we have news. Even though we're a teeny tiny firm, I use public relations tactics to help get our message out. An example would be, I recently earned, through my company, our Women Business Enterprise certification. We used WEDC, WEDC, which you may be familiar with. We earned our certification. So maybe it could stop there, or maybe you could do what I did and create a press release announcing that you recently earned your certification, asking the other party who helped you obtain that certification for a quote, and then pushing that out to the local media in your community. For me, that, I'm not going to send that to the New York Times. They're not going to care, or the Wall Street Journal, but certainly the Poughkeepsie Journal, Hudson Valley News Network, those kinds of places might care. Westchester County Business Journal. So I was able to share those news with those audiences and then get media placements. And then I took those media placements and I shared them on our social media. And then I took to my blog and I wrote about the experience and how excited I was about this news for my company. So now on multiple levels, I've spread the word about this one little moment that might have floated on by and be lost forever. And instead I capitalized on that moment and I used it as a way to keep my company front facing in traditional media, share it on social media, throw it up on my blog, which is my owned media, and hopefully drive SEO that now, when you look up public relations firms in the Hudson Valley, you may stumble across a placement with, really credible links thanks to pushing that out. And that's the kind of everyday moment that if you watch what the bigger companies do, obviously not everything is newsworthy. So you have to kind of have a little bit of reality check about your own business, but just sort of watching what makes news and why, and where there's an opportunity for you to join in on that conversation and to be a resource and to fill a need.
So can you talk a little bit more about that newsworthiness piece? How do you kind of look at your own company with sort of a realistic or like a, a 100,000 feet viewpoint and kind of know like, okay, that's really newsworthy, or, oh, that's just me like wanting to get attention, right? Or like feel confident that like it's actually something worth pushing out.
Okay, so first and foremost, my best advice for someone, if they're interested in making sure they make the most of the media opportunities, to really follow the media that they think they'd be interested in being a part of. Read what you're interested in possibly being in, watch, listen, pick up on what the patterns are and what's making headlines and what isn't. And I think if you're following those things and if you're watching, you can gain a more realistic view, take the ego out of it, watch what's really making headlines, what's really on your broadcast TV stations, and those will give you clues on what the media actually cares about and if you are an appropriate fit for that. And there is a little bit of a reality check. It's sad when you realize that just because you're excited about something doesn't mean it's huge news. And when it comes to approaching traditional media, and even when you push out messages on social media, being sensitive to the fact that people don't want to be sold all the time. If you come from a position of help and inform, whatever you put out there is going to be better received. Social media is in essence one enormous real-time conversation. So if you get in on the chatter in an appropriate way, your voice is going to be heard better than if you're shouting, "Look at me," every 2 minutes. We all have those friends on social media or those companies that every 2 minutes are like, "Look at me," and it's the hugest turnoff. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you can think of a few examples yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I had another question, but it kind of went out of my head.
You're so mesmerized by that. Look at me.
Exactly. No, I was just listening to what you were saying. And so...
Yeah, I think being proud of your company and what you're doing, but not being, as they say, braggadocious about it. Like there's a limit to how much one can talk about themselves.
Yeah, I remember what it was now. Okay, so still kind of about newsworthiness, but... So if you're kind of trying to create either your business plan for the next year or your strategic outlook, how can you start thinking about newsworthiness and kind of being strategically newsworthy? Or, how can you kind of start to think about it beforehand so that in 6 months we're going to do this thing and that's totally newsworthy. Or we want to create something that's newsworthy. How can you go about doing something like that?
So thinking about if creating those and doing those things ties to your bigger business plan is a great starting point, because to do things for the sake of seeking attention is never a good strategy. There should be a reason that you think you want to head in that direction or be somewhere or do something. So I think putting it into the bigger context of having a business plan, treating yourself like a client is something that I really find valuable. And for me, I'll just share. So one of the things I decided to do when I made my business plan for this year was I committed to a few publications that were important for my business and the target audience I need to reach in order to share what we're doing. So I sort of gave some thought to that and decided I would like to pursue being a guest columnist in these couple of news outlets that make sense for my business. Might not make sense for your business or even the other PR business down the street or whatever, but they really made sense for my business. And I hone in on those things because I see what gets reactions, what works, what makes my phone ring, what people seem to care about. Like, where is my audience at, and what are they reading, and what are they listening to, and what are their pain points, what do they care about? And can I share information that will help them make their lives easier? So I always try to come from that position of help and of looking at the bigger goal. So for a company like mine, most of my target audience are C-suite executives, your CEOs, your CFOs, your COOs, and a lot of them like reading business journals. So that was like one thing that I realized in this past year. And I said, okay, time to shift some of my strategy into that direction, because whenever I'm here, this seems to happen, or I get notes from people because they're noticing this. And that's, credentialing your business. You're kind of letting people know you're the expert in something. Here's what I'm good at. Here's how I can help people like you. And even if the phone doesn't ring tomorrow, you're showing that you understand what their business problem is and you're trying to help. And you're going to give away the store for free a little bit, and that's okay. Like, that's why I'm willing to share so openly with you now some of the things I've done, like the example about my business becoming certified and how I took that moment and made it into a bigger moment. Because I think in sharing, we kind of let people know, like, hey, I've got good ideas over here and I can help you with this situation that you too may be experiencing.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So I know you've done a little bit of work in with food businesses or with food industry.
Yes,
businesses.
Yeah. We've had some experience in kind of food and beverage. Yeah.
So how has that been different or similar to the other types of clients that you worked with?
So the skill set is the same in terms of identifying the correct places that a business needs to be, who their target audience is, how to position their news and become part of the news cycle. I will say it's always fun working in the food and beverage arena because there's such a huge consumer interest in food and beverage. And therefore the media opportunities are so far and wide because there's a real thirst, if you will, for that kind of information. People are really interested in anything touching food and beverage. If you talk to a newspaper reporter, they will tell you some of the most page views they have on their stories in the entire newspaper are on stories about food. People love food stories, and restaurants opening, restaurants closing.
Restaurants closing.
Yeah, people go crazy. All over social media too, they go insane. Those are the most shared stories because it touches all of our lives. We all need to eat. We all want to drink. So there's just greater opportunities there to share really fun and interesting stories and to get very creative with what we do, especially if we have a willing client partner who's willing to hear out our crazy ideas and help put them into motion.
What's the craziest idea you've presented to a prospective client or client?
Oh gosh. So I've been doing this for more than 18 years. So they are too many to recount at once. And I have big crazy ideas all of the time, Kaylina. It could be everything from take off your shoes and stomp those grapes to so why don't we create a promotion with this hashtag and can you run over there right now and make it happen? And oh my goodness, it would be really great is if we had a roll off and we could get paint rollers and make it happen instead of a ribbon cutting. Like every moment my head is filled with these juicy, exciting ideas. And I love taking the mundane and making it into the super fun, the like big, fun, photo-worthy, video-worthy moment. And I think that's what takes kind of an everyday commonplace thing and makes it more exciting. And luckily we have some great client partners who are willing to think outside the box a bit and let us go crazy with them and help amp up their news value. You don't want me to take off my shoes right now. I understand. No problem. I'll keep them on.
It's probably best if both of us keep our shoes on.
Yeah, I'm going to try to control myself. But no, anything that like allows us to take into the creative, and it's those everyday moments where somebody says, I'm looking at blah, 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 whatever it is. And you just sit and brainstorm together and you let your imagination run wild. And it doesn't mean you're going to implement every idea you come up with, but just dreaming bigger, being more clever. And it doesn't even always cost a lot of money to be smart and to watch what's going on in the world around you and have a bit of a sense of humor about it. not take yourself so seriously. Take your brand seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. Have fun with what you're doing. And
yeah, definitely.
The fun shows. When you put love and fun into it, it really can be magic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about how you grew your business. I mean, you talked a little bit in the beginning about, that you already had people that were interested in working with you. So then you kind of took it and you were like, okay, well, let me take it and run with it and make a business out of this and everything. So, but I'm sure that at that time, you didn't have employees and you didn't have an office. And you didn't have a website.
None of that. Okay.
Right. So how did you go from I'm a freelancer to I'm a business with 4 or 5 employees and 3 interns and an office space and my sign on the wall, and how did you do that?
So baby steps. So yeah, that did not happen overnight, although it did happen faster than I expected. I opened this business with this crazy conversation of I kind of have a business. Do you think I have a business? Maybe I have a business here.
What's a business?
Yeah, maybe I should learn about what it takes to become a business. So I will say that at the beginning of the journey, the one thing that I did well, because I joked about some of the mistakes I made and some of the things that I learned along the way, but one of the things I don't regret for a single moment, I know I did right, was that I waited and I saved up some money to the side and I hired a really great attorney to help me start my business. I found a really great CPA to make sure that my books were in line, that I was doing things the right way and not making silly mistakes up front. I also hired someone to help me develop that logo that you see up on the wall behind us. I didn't come up with that myself and I didn't crowdsource it for $10. I put some thought into with that person's direction, the colors I was going to use, the message I was going to send. I even consulted them on the name of my company. I corralled an inner circle to talk through some of the ideas for a name of my company and the whys behind it. And I'm not saying putting it out to 100 people, but 5 or 6 people that I really trusted when I had it narrowed down. I let them look at what I was thinking and ask them, does this remind you of anything? How does it make you feel? I hired someone to help me create the website to kind of take the ideas that I had in my head and make sure they translated visually. And so that was the first important step is I took myself serious. If I'm going to do this, let me do it for real. And at that time, it was just me. I started off with a computer on my kitchen counter. Didn't even have a desk. And then I went to taking over a desk in the downstairs of my house, to putting a file cabinet in the laundry room, to then going back upstairs and using my kitchen table to bring some freelancers in for discussions. And very quickly it became evident that I needed to hire and bring on people to kind of keep up with the business growth and take it seriously. And then I got my first small office next door, the one I'm in right now with you. And we grew again, and I realized I need an even bigger space. So then I moved into this one in just August of this year. But it's been really taking the ideas seriously, having a business plan, having a vision, and seeing things that haven't happened yet and believing in them. And then finding great client partners to make them a reality. You could see just from this conversation here, I'm really passionate about the work we do and who we do it with. I really care about it. I'm excited about it. I'm engaged. And I have 5 others who work with me who are just as passionate and committed and just as smart. And I think that's what makes the company magic. It's not Filomena. It's Filomena plus these 5 other really outstanding people who can hold their own. So the sum is more than any individual person would be.
So how did you realize it was time to hire people?
When I was working 80 hours a week.
How did you convince yourself that,
scary.
Yeah.
It's scary to bring on people. And I always could have had people in the hopper who I've identified as potential people I'd bring on if we grew. And then the second we grow to a point where it's extreme pain or I feel like not hiring somebody would make our client service suffer, then I just bite the bullet and I get brave and I bring someone in. But often I'll work with someone on a freelance basis to test them out first before I commit to them and have them commit to me, just to make sure it's a good fit. So that's a good way to test run somebody who you're thinking might be a great employee down the road is to give them a few projects, subcontract out some work with them, and test the waters together. Make sure the business need is there, but also make sure the working styles are compatible.
So because you started the way you did by yourself and everything, and then maybe, having some freelancers here and there, talk to me about how you were able to scale the business model. Did you have that in your mind when you wrote your business plan, or is it like you kind of were like, oh, wow, we grew fast and now there's like, I'm working way too much and I need help, and tell me about that.
So when I very initially started the business and I thought I might have this business, like, let me see, there seems to be a need in the market, I did not foresee it growing the way it did. In fact, I thought, okay, maybe I'll add 1 or 2 people. I never envisioned being alone in the business for the long term, but definitely I didn't think we'd be where we are yet. And then my plans had to change according to the market demand. And now I do see more. So I already, in my mind, am imagining the next people I'd add and what those positions would look like and why. Am I there right this second? No, but I do have the game plan in my mind to take the business there. And sometimes it's about looking around at the people that you have there and the business you have there and just making sure you're servicing that well and taking care of the people who are there already. So right now, like in first quarter 2017, it's all about doing a great job for the clients we have in front of us and keeping the door open to opportunities, but really growing the team members I have, promoting them when their skill levels are there, which we just did with 2 of the people who are here, and just becoming really cohesive as a team so that we can make sure we're doing right by the people who call us for work.
So how do you go about taking care of your employees and things like that? I mean, I didn't hear any time in your background when you went to school for HR or,
no, I wish I did.
In an HR department.
I should have. In hindsight's 2020. That would have been a great skill to have. I've sort of learned by watching other leaders who I admire. Mm-hmm. When I see somebody doing it right, similar to how I told you, I look at what other companies are doing and I draw inspiration from them. Whether that's PR firms and seeing how they help their clients in best practices. Similarly, if I see someone who I think is a magnetic and awesome leader, and someone I know by the name of Ken Jacobs, I'm going to give him a shout out here. I remember sitting in a leadership seminar with him in Puerto Rico. And
that's not exotic at all.
Not bad, right? Just last year I was sitting there, I was listening to him talk about leadership. And the one thing he emphasizes is that you can't be a leader unless you have followers. So, which is very true, right? Leadership isn't about saying, I'm in charge, here's what I want from you. It's about listening to the people that are around you and inspiring them and motivating them by walking the walk and talking the talk and listening, just really listening. And it's something I work on getting better at every single day. And maybe you could survey the people that work with me. Maybe they'd say she can get even better. But it's something I really care about and that I consider to be a big part of my job description is kind of team motivator, team inspirer, brand builder, culture builder. And if I dedicate a portion of my time to those little things, whether it's, all grabbing lattes together and having some laughs or taking a seminar together so that we can all improve upon our skills, then I'm doing my job well. Like that's what I need to do. Because if the people that work with me and for me aren't motivated too, then how are we gonna move the boat along if we're not all rowing in the same direction?
That's a good metaphor.
So that's what I want to do. I want everybody to get the oars out and we're all gonna row together. Now, how people are motivated and inspired seems to differ person by person. I know before this podcast, you and I were chatting here and we were talking about personalities and introverts versus extroverts. And that's something in this role that I'm learning a little bit about is that each person is motivated differently, feels rewarded differently, gets frustrated by different things. So learning how to better read each person that I work with on the client front and also on the team front is so key to creating a better company.
For sure. So now that you've grown your business outside of yourself, how do you spend your time? I mean, I'm sure that at the beginning you weren't thinking like, okay, I'm going to, get all this work and then have people that do it for me. Right. No, at the beginning it was more like, okay, I'm getting this work so I have an income and I'm going to do the work because I like doing this sort of work.
Soup to nuts, yeah.
Right. So
definitely.
So now that you are founder and CEO and you have other people to say like, you know, manage the accounts and type up the press release, like what is it that you are doing for the business? You know, I mean, obviously maybe you still do some of that PR work.
I do still do some. So yeah, I'm not afraid to pick up the phone or draft emails or contact media or interface with clients. Like it's still a huge part of what I do. Granted, there are a lot of people helping carry out the ideas that I have or the things that we talk about in meetings with our clients. But I never like to get to a position where I don't know what's going on in the accounts. Like we have weekly Monday morning meetings. You're a little late for it today, but we gather in the room that you're in now and we go over all of the clients that we're working with, what's going on with them, what we need to move forward this week for them. So I'm always 100% in touch with what's going on with each, even if there's someone else who's helping with some of that day to day. And yeah, I still go to client meetings. I love being with the clients, and even though it's my job to lead and to network and to build the business and to kind of handle some of that day to day for the company itself, I really feel deeply connected to what I do and I love it. And I never want to be so far away that I can't take meetings with our clients or get on the phone with them or get on the phone with the media. Like it's a big part of my job. So in a given week, I may spend time with one of our clients doing a site tour with a colleague. And then I may be at coffee with a member of the media. And then I might be in the office reviewing someone else's writing and sharing my input before it goes to our client. So I do a lot of reviewing of people's work before the clients see it still. Sort of like an extra layer of protection, another set of eyes, make sure all the positioning is consistent. So that's still something I spend a good deal of my time doing, and very little goes through here without it touching me in some way. It's just there's many people help me keep the wheel spinning.
So a phrase I heard you say just a second ago, that's something that you do as part of your job is build the business.
Yes.
So that's a pretty broad phrase. What exactly does that mean to you?
For me, that can mean anything from getting out and attending networking events and kind of being the face of the company and meeting other people who we might wind up working with in some capacity at some point, to keeping our skills and our tools fresh and going out there and kind of hearing what are some of the best practices in the industry. Like I won't hesitate to drive to Westchester or Connecticut to attend a great seminar that I could bring back then information that'll help our team. Or other ways that I build the business is I spend time blogging myself, sharing what I'm doing with members of the media, giving talks. Like I'll go out there and I do a lot of public speaking on behalf of the business. And to me, that's part of building the business and building our brand, is to be visible, to be out there touching people closely and talking about what it is we do and with whom. Mm-hmm. So that's time consuming, but it's fun.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of wrap-up questions that I ask everybody that we sort of strayed a little bit from my main sort of topic that I discuss on this podcast, which is more like related to food and health.
Oh, we're going to talk about food, Kaylina? Because I'm down.
Okay. Okay, so let's ask a couple of questions before the final wrap-up questions to lead into food.
It's all about food.
It's all about food. What's your favorite food?
Oh my goodness. I love pasta.
How did I know?
Yeah. Probably because I was just telling you about where to get a good plate of pasta locally. No. I'm an Italian girl, and I was brought up eating pasta, and I know there's this whole trend against pasta, but Filomena loves her pasta.
You just want me to say it.
I'm going to make you say it. I'm not ashamed to admit that I like pasta, and therefore I do like exercise as well, and the two blend beautifully. So if I can keep on running, then I can keep on enjoying pasta in moderation.
In moderation.
That's moderation. The key. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I heard you mention running. So you do running?
Yeah, so my favorite form of fitness is running, and for many years it was a huge part of my identity. And I used to run about 6 to 7 days a week, and I like distance running. These days I'm more of like a 3 to 5 mile runner a few times a week, but it's where I think of some of my best ideas.
I can relate.
Yeah, you too, right? Like something about, we never think of our good ideas when we're sitting at a desk in front of our computer. It's always at these random times, like when you're out for a long run in the country and you're looking at the mountains, and then,
For me, I come up with a lot of good ideas when I'm driving or when I'm in the shower.
Ooh, the shower. The shower is majorly inspiring. Yeah, it is. There's something about the shower.
But it's like, it's just calming. It's like the only time you're truly alone.
Yeah, your brain goes into this other mode.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what running is. I go into another mode, and I also have these really great friends that I enjoy running with. So it's social for me. It's a stress relief, helps me stay healthy. And I think when you own a business, you do have to take care of your health. It's so important, mental and physical and spiritual, the whole thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So speaking of health,
yes.
This is my first wrap-up question that I ask to everyone.
Okay.
So how do you define health and healthy?
Health and healthy. For me, health is nurturing who you are and where you're at, and in finding joy. Like when I find joy in my world, I feel healthy and balanced. So for me, health is about finding the things that make me happy and surrounding myself with those.
And why is that important?
Well, we only get one go around in this life, Kaylina, so I'm going to make mine count. I'm packing it all in. I'm going to be 40 this summer, and I realize that I'm probably about halfway, if I'm lucky, through this journey called life. And we don't get a redo.
We don't look old enough to be halfway through your life.
Maybe I am, though, or maybe less than that. We don't know how much time we have here.
That's true.
So I really like to make it count and find happiness around me in the simple moments. And while I love running a business, that doesn't define me. While I love running, that doesn't define me. I try to surround myself with great people, make me happy, a good family, great friends, and to always be open to new things. Just kind of be open to life and experiences.
So if being a business owner, running a business, and being a runner, if those things aren't what define you, what does define you?
My values. My values define who I am. They say character is who you are in the dark. So when all the lights go out at the end of the night and I lay my pillow down on the head, that's like my head down on the pillow, not my pillow on the head. My head on the pillow. That's who I truly am. When I'm in the comfort of my own home with my family and I've ended a day and I'm alone in my solitude, I know who I am and what defines me and what my values are. And if I've lived a life that's true to that, then that's a happy life.
Definitely.
Yeah. I still have to be alone with me at the end of the day.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so normally I would ask this question. The following two questions are related to food and health. It's not really your area of expertise per se. Mm-hmm.
I'm an expert at eating, though. Doesn't that count?
So if you don't feel like it's appropriate for you to answer these questions, we can kind of adapt them.
Okay.
For you. So what do you see as the biggest issue facing our society as it relates to food and health?
Ooh, that's deep, Kaylina. I think there's a huge food insecurity issue. So I'm not a food expert, but I think it's a real shame that economics often drive the access that we have to good, healthy food. So one of the things I'm passionate about is I've been a member of Poughkeepsie Farm Project for many years, community-supported agriculture. And I love knowing where my food comes from and that it's good, wholesome food. And I love the fact that they do a lot of give back within the community. And I think especially children, all children should have the right to good, nutritious food. I think it's like a basic human right, good food.
And what do you think is the most exciting thing going on in food and health?
Most exciting. I'm just trying to focus on what I'm going to have for dinner over here tonight. So it's all exciting when it comes to food. I do think that it's really great here in the Hudson Valley where I'm based that we have so many different types of cuisines, so many ethnic cuisines. I think that's a really fun trend that I'm hoping we continue to see in the years to come is really great dining options, really different dining options. And I love seeing, because we're so close to the Culinary Institute, all of the chefs coming out of there and opening up restaurants here in this community. I think it's great. So not such a fan of the chain restaurants, but really adore some of these locally grown establishments and that opportunity to try new kinds of cuisine, new inventive cuisine.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one.
Yum.
Yes, yum. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just a big hearty thank you for having me as a guest in your podcast. And I love talking with you, whether or not we're on air. It's just always fun to have a chat with you. So thank you for having me.
Definitely. And it was great to hear everything you had to offer in this conversation. I really enjoy speaking with you too. You're a couple years ahead of me in business, and so it's really great to hear the things that you've learned and kind of see how I can apply that in my own business too.
That's great. I have to tell you, one of the best things is I also look at others who are a few years ahead of where I'm at, and I draw advice and inspiration from them constantly. So I think it's good to always look around you and pay attention to what other people are doing. And if you or if anybody has questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. My website is PRWith, so PRWITH impact.com. There's an opportunity to connect with me right on there on the website and send me an email and get in touch. And I'd be happy to talk to anyone who wants to talk about public relations in general. It's always, or business, just starting a business and facing down the fears of being a business owner. Always happy to chat about that.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that offer. That's really great. And I hope that some people will reach out to you.
They're welcome to. I'm here, an open book.
Yeah, you definitely seem to have a good head on your shoulders there.
We'll chat, especially if you bring pasta. Like, we're able to chat forever.
She also likes coffee.
I like coffee, yeah. So I do like coffee. Yeah, there's pretty much no meeting I won't take if there's coffee involved.
Coffee was a prerequisite for this recording.
Yes, we have our twin coffees here. Cafe Miels.
Oh yeah, you got the Cafe Miel too.
I did get the Cafe Miel as well. Yeah.
Anybody in the Hudson Valley, you can head to Crafted Cup. Shout out to Crafted Cup.
Yes, Crafted Cup
on Raymond Avenue in Poughkeepsie with their Cafe Miel is delicious.
Yeah, if you have not tried the Cafe Miel at Crafted Cup, you're really losing out. You need to get yourself over there.
Yeah. Get it together.
They are not paying us to say that, but
they're definitely not.
No, I paid for my own latte, but like Cafe Miel is everything.
Cafe Miel or die.
Yes.
No, just kidding. All right. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks again to our guest, Filomena Fanelli, founder and CEO of Impact PR and Communications. I really enjoyed chatting with her today and hearing all about her experiences starting her business, how it grew so quickly, and also getting some great tactics and strategies for PR for the small business. I definitely agree it's important to look at the big companies, see what they're doing, and see how we can scale it down for our own needs in a way that makes sense, but also will help us grow and get noticed. So I hope that you guys got something great out of this and can use the information to start your business or grow your business or really just pursue everything that you are looking to do. Thanks to you guys, the listeners, for tuning into this episode of the Put a Fork in It podcast, the podcast that offers fresh perspectives at the intersection of food, health, business, and creativity. I look forward to sharing future episodes with you and interviewing other interesting people. If you have any feedback or suggestions on what you'd like to hear on this show, or you'd be interested in becoming a sponsor, you can email me at kaylina@putaforkinitpodcast.com. Don't forget to check out the episode notes, links, and leave comments over at putaforkinitpodcast.com and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. If you do love this show and you want to support it, please share it with a friend or donate on patreon.com/putaforkinit. And of course, make it a delicious day.